Hi everyone, welcome back to my Aussie story. My name is Janina Sherry, and for today, we'll be discussing the cultural diversity in Australia. Is Australia an immigrant's multicultural paradise? Australia is a popular destination among immigrants for a number of reasons. On top of that list is the fact that it's a melting pot of cultures. Australia as we know it now is a country that has in part been shaped by the migration of people from all over the world throughout the years. Now, is Australia an immigrant's multicultural paradise? Let's first define what a multicultural country is. A culturally diverse country is one that has a variety of cultural groups mixed within its society. When it comes to this, Australia is extremely abundant. Let's look at the cultural diversity in Australia. Australia is a rich and vibrant multicultural country. I say this because not only is it home to the world's oldest continuous cultures and those from its British colonial past, but it has also become home to many immigrants from many different countries and cultures. It's considered to be one of the most culturally and linguistically diverse societies on Earth. A good percentage of the Australian population speak languages other than English, and different religions are also present here, including Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, and the Aboriginals' traditional religions. Migrants is part of the Australian community. Some say that Australia, to some extent, is a nation of immigrants, but where exactly do we fit in the Australian community? Australia has a rich history of migrants. This continues to contribute to our country's social and economic fabric. Our diversity is very much an advantage in this globalized economy we're all participating in. Our diverse workforce offers different skills, linguistic capabilities, knowledge, and creativity, which strengthens the Australian economy. This multilingual workforce helps boost our country's competitive edge and broadens our business horizons and networks. The contributions of immigrants can also be seen and experienced in many aspects of daily life. When talking about food, for example, Australia's multiculturalism is reflected in the country's food scene. For instance, where I currently live, you will see restaurants offering different cuisines such as Indian, Thai, Japanese, Chinese, Italian, and Vietnamese. If you go to bigger cities, you'll for sure find a lot more. Blending in the community. I'm sure that each one of you has interesting and unique stories of when you've just migrated here in Australia. A statement we can all agree on is that it can be quite a challenge. One of the most important and difficult part is blending in the community. It seems that initially some of us have the tendency to cluster. Everything can be so overwhelming when you're just starting out, so I guess a lot of us try to find some familiarity to hold on to. Newly arrived migrants move to places where they can be surrounded with people from the same culture as them. Eventually, though, when we become more comfortable and when our social and economic situations have grown, we relocate to other areas. Most of us new immigrants have a strong sense of belonging to this country, and the feeling only gets deeper over time. What barriers do new migrants face? Migrants face a lot of initial dilemmas in the beginning of their journey to finding their place in the Australian society. In my opinion, the biggest one would be the language barrier. There are some people who have very little grasp of the English language, and as you could probably imagine, it's not very easy to live in a country when you can't communicate with anyone. And even if you're proficient enough, there'd still be times when you will misunderstand or be misunderstood when things like accent and culture are factored in. Another barrier is finding accommodation. This is one of the first steps to getting settled. But it can be quite challenging since the rental market, especially in the big cities, is very competitive. The requirements for applying for a rental property might also be tricky for someone who had just moved from overseas. I've talked more in depth about this in a blog post on my website, which I will link below. New immigrants also face hurdles in finding their first job here. The main issue is their lack of Australian work experience and references, which are often required when applying for a job. There's also difficulties in having their skills and qualifications recognized here, and on top of that, migrants are more vulnerable to be taken advantage of by sleazy employers. So, what help are available to you? Well, there are collective efforts coming from the government, nonprofit organizations, and the communities to provide migrants like ourselves with assistance and opportunities to positively contribute to the Australian society. The government offers settlement and support services for eligible migrants. They even provide migrants with access to gaining necessary education to improve their employability and English language proficiency. In fact, I gained my Certificate 3 through a government-funded program organized by a multicultural, nonprofit organization in my area. I like how immigrants here are welcomed even through the little things. Like, for those who are not very fluent in English, there's a translator option offered and information made available in different languages in government offices like the Department of Transport and the Department of Health. As for the not-for-profit organizations, they hold multicultural events where the local community and immigrants get to participate and experience each other's cultures. Laws in place. So, Australia hasn't always been so open to migrants. Back in 1901, Australia had an Immigration Restriction Act, more commonly known as the White Australia Policy. Simply put, this legislation stopped all non-European immigration into Australia. But as we all know, this country is now far away from that and has become one of the world's most multicultural countries. Australia now has the Racial Discrimination Act of 1975. It's the country's first federal anti-discrimination law. It aims to protect people from unfair treatment on the basis of their race, color, descent, national, or ethnic background. It's a sign of the country's commitment to racial equality. Despite this, though, there are still some people who continue to experience prejudice because of their race or culture. To conclude, one of Australia's greatest strengths is its cultural diversity. It gives the country advantages in many aspects and makes it all the more interesting. Now, to answer the question, is Australian immigrants multicultural paradise? The answer, I think, is up to you. Everyone's experiences are different, but I would say that though it isn't perfect, it's pretty close. Well, that's us for today. Please like, comment, subscribe, click the notification bell, and visit myaussiestory.com if you'd like to see more of my journey and experiences as an immigrant here in Australia. Thanks for watching. See ya!